All right, three, two, one. We are proud to have on the second episode of Twigs and Twine, Joey Walsh, the creator of the Hockey Stick Man and Hockey Stick Man Warehouse, a well-known hockey stick retailer specializing in pro stock sticks well-known across Canada and across the U.S. Walshy, how you doing today?
Doing good, boys. Thanks for having me.
Pleasure having you on. So before we get into Hockey Stick Man, I just want to go over some of your past experience. You worked as a program manager for BC Hockey, and in that time, you also worked game day operations for the 2010 Olympics for men's and women's hockey. Can you just take just one at a time? Can you take us through your experience working for BC Hockey?
Yeah, certainly. I was fortunate to start my career in amateur hockey development. My first passion. That's what I wanted to do after my Brock sport management education. I was very passionate in helping out development programs. BC Hockey was the perfect landing spot. I was a program manager there for 5 years and worked with a lot of different endeavors, including their high performance program, their development, female development program, long-term athlete development model, coaching, a number of one of these items. So really enjoyed it, really got a great base from some excellent professionals that I looked up to a lot, taught me a lot of things, a lot of travel, a lot of fun. We worked with the Canucks very closely on a lot of different initiatives. The Vancouver Canucks were an unbelievable organization to work with. They created a lot of really excellent opportunity for minor players within British Columbia. And we worked closely with Hockey Canada and ourselves to deliver those opportunities to our membership, which I was very proud to do. And it was very enjoyable. Then we also ran a really excellent high performance program. We developed a lot of wonderful talent. Guys that came out of the program, Ryan Nugent-Hopkins, Carey Price, Dion Phaneuf, and so on and so forth while I was there. So we were very proud of that as well. And so it gave me great insight into how hockey was run across the country. Then I was very fortunate to work game day operations for the Olympics. Got to see many of the games, the very exciting times. We ran the practices as well. So I was riding with the teams to and from the practice arena with their equipment on, which was kind of a funny thing, seeing a bunch of NHL superstars like Teemu Selanne and Zdeno Chara geared up in all their stuff, and then having their boots on like it was minor hockey. Back in my young days, I remember doing that in my house league, novice house league. So it was brought me back, and I thought that was pretty funny. See the Olympic athletes doing that. So unbelievable time, a lot of fun out west, and I learned a lot.
So after you finished your time in Vancouver, you ended up getting involved with Colt Hockey. Can you just take us through how that opportunity came about and what your role was in the organization or in the company?
Absolutely, yeah. If you haven't heard of Colt Hockey, they basically are a company based out of Mississauga here that puts the most extraordinary material. It's called nanocrystalline metal, essentially. There's about $90 million in research and development they've gone into aerospace technology, things for military applications, all sorts of really, really cool things. Essentially, it's coating it with this metal that's very, very thin and light. You can coat it with plastic. So the application creates anything that's that you need to be light and durable. You can do with this. So because they're based out of Mississauga, very passionate about hockey, they decided to put it on a hockey stick. And it was incredible technology. I was drawn to it. At the time, I had started my business already with with pro stock sticks and refurbished pro stock sticks, used sticks. So I just thought it was another option to deliver to my customers to say, hey, here's an opportunity to save money on hockey sticks. If you can buy one of these a year and it's high performance, then you don't mind doing so. It was a lot of fun again. Learned a lot from incredible engineers and stuff that worked on the project. But we went on Dragon's Den, which was cool. Put it on Dragon's Den, and got a lot of notoriety there. I also worked with the NHL to get it into the National Hockey League, show that it had the durability and the safety features to do so. And went down to Air Canada Center, met with the Leafs, met with the Rangers, showed all the guys. We had probably half a dozen different players use them blacked out in games to try them out. But it's so, unfortunately with Colt, it's such an expensive product, and it has to be manufactured here in Canada. There was no way to get it overseas to take down the manufacturing process. It didn't scale enough that there's really much profitability in it. So that was sort of the end of that. They still sell them, but they just sell them without any marketing. They just sell them online.
That's actually what I wanted to get into when you mentioned the NHL. It's known that there's some requirements to have your sticks featured with NHL players. Can you just take us through what the requirements are and like how to get your equipment certified for NHL player usage?
Certainly, in my experience, the NHL was fantastic. They were there is a barrier to entry, and that if you want to be in the NHL, it's a pay to play game. So if you want to have your logo featured on Hockey Night in Canada and throughout NBC and during the playoffs and stuff like that, there's a cost to that. And it's in the player category, in the player stick category, it's about $100,000 a year. So if you want to have your sticks in the NHL, it's about $100,000 to do so. But they were really good in terms of understanding that, we were a new company trying to get started out. Their main concern was safety for their players. So they went through a safety protocol thing with the Department of Safety. And I got back to us fairly quickly to say, it's good. It tests out fine. Go ahead, black it out and put it in the game for this year. And then if you want to, if it does work out, then we can look at a deal for next year. So the process was, I thought was fair. And it was good to deal with those guys. It just wasn't for us. It's a big price tag, because then you're actually have to pay the player the endorsement deal on top of that to use the stick. Well
said. So backtracking a little bit, after your time in BC, you decided to start Hockey Stick Man. Can you just take us through what inspires you to get involved with selling pro stock sticks, refurbished sticks on an online scale, and now in multiple stores in the GTA?
Pretty much a glutton for punishment, Matthew. It's really, what happened actually was we were in British Columbia, and my men's league filled up with these refurbished sticks, and they were incredible. $60 I think at the time. For all these top end sticks. And I was playing at a pretty high level, of men's league. And a lot of the guys had hockey pedigree and were good players, but didn't want to spend the money. So I just knew that if these players were using this stick, that we could certainly have these sticks at the very least as great training aids, great sticks for people to save money on, especially during practice and stuff like that. They were using, also a couple junior teams were using them at the time. And, I know that like leading scorers in the British Columbia Hockey League were using them during games. So I kind of knew that it was a great concept, but it really wasn't being done to any level in Ontario at the time. So I brought it back, and I actually had another job. So my dad and my uncle, they went to work at these sticks. We collected them over the course of our time. My brothers were playing Division One down at Dartmouth, cousin in Colgate. So we were having lots of fun on road trips down into the US. A couple of friends that worked in the OHL, collecting these sticks. My dad and uncle repairing them, selling them out of our basement in about 20 minutes east of Belleville, Ontario. And that was kind of it. I mean, we got the word out. We put them in a couple pro shops, and we went about our everyday life for a few years. It was more of a side hustle, fun thing that we started working on. And then in 2014, we were introduced to Shopify. And I remember saying, who's going to buy a broken hockey stick online? It turns out the answer is about 30,000 people over the course of time. Price talks, reviews were key. Trust in the process, trust in our name, I guess, worked for us. So it just naturally became bigger and bigger over time. One team after the next were interested in it. I can say we were kind of a little bit heroes. We'd come reeling in our big camper van. We'd always drop a cold case of thank you off for the lads when we did so, and then away we went with their broken sticks that were otherwise garbage, and those guys would have a little bit of money for the team back in their budgets and stuff. So it was kind of a win-win for everybody around. And to be honest with you, a lot of guys that were buying them off the bat, I always said that they never used such a great hockey stick in their life, because this is a $250 stick they were getting for $60, but it was light and it was snapped, it performed. A lot of guys we sold them to loved them.
So you told us about some people's reviews on them and how you end up collecting them, but can you tell us a little bit of the process on how you do refurbish the sticks?
Certainly. It's not rocket science. You have to do it properly, and you have to do it very well. You have to be a little bit meticulous, which is why it was great for my old man and my uncle, because they followed the process, or they do follow the process to this day perfectly well. But all it is a double wrapped carbon fiber insert sleeve that essentially you cut the break out of a shaft. We inspect. We have about a 5-stage inspection process to make sure that the blade is intact, and that there's no other surface cracks or micro fractures in other areas of the shaft. And then we cut the shaft break out, the visible part of the break, and then we bevel the inside of the shaft to give it an opportunity to lock in. You put you put a little styrofoam stopper in it, insert the sleeve, and then you line up the stick in a clamp. And what you do is you put the sleeve in, put the clamp on, pour an epoxy resin mixture that essentially heats up and pushes the carbon fiber up against the inside walls of the stick and locks everything in place. After a 3-day curing process, what happens is you crack out the stick, and then it returns to its same flexibility. So we had the sticks tested, again, with my connections at Colt. We actually took them in and tested the new versus the refurbished portion of the same stick, and found that the flex profile and the flex of the stick stayed consistent with what it was. So we sort of did all of the on ice testing. Again, we had the BC Hockey League and other places I knew it worked from, but the lab test was a nice feather in our cap to really start peddling these things.
That's great. And you speak on having junior teams like the BCHO use their sticks. But how about the level above that? How did you get in contact with NCAA teams acquiring your sticks and using it at that level?
Yeah, absolutely. The NCAA guys essentially were my brother's contacts. They are all playing down there. And once we started buying broken sticks off of one team, that spread like wildfire. I mean, it was a decent amount of money we were paying for them and still do pay for them. So that was found money for them. As I'm sure you're aware, any college or pro team, there's no shortage of expenditures, especially on sticks and equipment. So anything coming back was very much appreciated. The other thing was that we were traveling to these teams anyway. So, I don't know that I'd want to pay for shipping and pay for brokerage, bringing them into Canada. I don't know that I'd want to drive to, 8 hours away to pick up some broken hockey sticks and come back. But we were down there to watch my brothers play hockey, which was important to us. So it was all just a bonus thing, and it worked out. And, next week we're going to this place in the ECAC and the next place. And hey, Hockey East is not far away. So we'll swing over there and pick up the stuff off of those guys. And wasn't soon after that the boys started to say, hey, you want our new sticks because we need to clear those out. And the rest is history.
Absolutely. And with your job, obviously you have to go on the road a lot of road trips. Are there any trips that stand out to you?
Certainly. Oh God, how much time do we have? We had a lot of fun. We have a big family, and it sounds kind of funny, but there would be times where it was me, my mom, cousin Russ, uncle Bill, Uncle Steve, and everybody load into these vehicles. We often have my cousin Jake's truck full of people too, and we'd be on an 8-hour road trip down to Dartmouth, get in on a Friday night. Some of the boys would be pretty excited to be able to half cut, and then we'd take in a game and out in the intermissions back out to the road trek, and then back into the games. And Dartmouth had this little room for families. So as you're in an Ivy League school, you're downstairs and it's Smoyer's Lounge, and it's they come down and the players come in, and it's the friends and family of Dartmouth hockey, and then they have wine and beer for you to have a drink and a little bit of a snack and stuff like that. And then you have our roughneck crew down there after all this, seeing the boys. And then after that on the Saturday night games, we'd finish it off with my brothers were in a fraternity. So we'd be in the fraternity house, having fun as well. So those were great weekends. It'd be tough 8-hour drives home with broken sticks poking into your side, but a lot of fun stories. And those were just the home games. The away games were equally as fun, because now we're in cities like Boston and down to Yale, and we're in Princeton, and we're seeing these amazing campuses and it's all that stuff. So we had a lot of stories, and ran into a lot of people. Maybe take a few years off our life. Slept in this camper van. We always say that we stayed in all of the nicest hotels across the country in the parking lot, in the camper van. Then we had to sometimes push the sticks off the seat so my dad and I could sleep together in the double bed in the camper. So there was a certain amount of drinking that needed to occur just to be able to do that. But as I say, we thought that we were still students when we were doing this.
So prevalent on social media in the past few, ever since the Hockey Stick Man social media accounts have come up is your relationship with Chicago Blackhawk Andrew Shaw. Can you just take us through your how you two got to know each other, and just if you got any stories from Shawzy back in ever since you met him?
Yeah, Shazi. I mean, everybody knows I taught him everything he knows, and I think he thanked me for the cup when he won it. There, he's my brother. Him and my brother are best friends. My youngest brother, Dustin. He now works for the Vegas Golden Knights. So we're Golden Knights fans. He's an ex Montreal Canadian draft pick, limited by career-ending injury to his hip. So Shazi and him grew up together, both a couple of great players, in playing for Quinny in the OMHA. They were both standout players, best friends all the way up. I think Dustin was in his wedding. I think he was the MC of his wedding, a few years ago when Shazi got married. So we, as a family, we went to a lot of the games. Always nice to watch your younger brother be one of the best players in the league. And the Shaw family in general is family friends of ours. So knowing them growing up, really. Then Shaw's also really been pretty awesome to us, like throughout his time in the NHL. He's invited us to his house a couple of times, when we're driving through Chicago and stuff. He's given us tickets and a place to stay. And actually, he hosted us for my bachelor party. I did a bachelor party a number of years back, and he was there at it. We went to the Wrigley's, and then he got us tickets to 15 of us tickets to the Blackhawks game. So we did Wrigley Field the one night. Shazi had us over to his game, and it was an 11 a.m. game. It was a game of the week. So tough sledding after a big opening weekend, 100th year anniversary of Wrigley Field opening weekend at the bleachers. And the next day we're up at 9:30 in the morning over to the Blackhawks game, which was pretty cool because they were fighting for a playoff spot with St. Louis. So it was a great game as well. But then the game was over at 1:00, and then back to Shazi's pad, and a lot of fun was had there. And then recently, we usually play a couple rounds of golf with them throughout the year. Shazi's a pretty great guy. He's best friends with both my brothers now. They train together. So he actually had them on the ice, and my two brothers actually pretty much won the last Stanley Cup with the Blackhawks. They were on the ice. They were touring around with the cup for a couple of days in Chicago, and a lot of fun. I didn't invite myself on that trip, but it wouldn't be above me either.
Sorry, you guys went. Oh, you guys are cup finals. Sorry, I got a twig deal. I gotta go pick up down the street from you guys. So I think I'll meet you guys for the cup party.
That's right. They were surprised I wasn't. There was a couple people that made a comments being like, "I'm surprised Joey didn't wheel his way into this deal."
Well, if I was in your situation, I would have been down there right away.
Well, life is throwing a little bit of a change. I'm a married man with a couple of young boys now, so this part of our business of going down and meeting up with people is a bit of a young man's game, and I've sort of passed that off to my other brother and a couple of our young staff that work with me now. So. So it's those guys. Those guys are doing that stuff now, and I'm sitting back and trying to reminisce about the past.
Absolutely well said. Amazing stories about you with you and Shazi. Getting back to the twig side of things. You guys are known for your. You guys have created your own model of sticks, the Pro Blackout and Pro Blackout Light. Can you just take us through how that opportunity came about, and just like a little bit of nuance of the stick that some might not know?
Absolutely. So there was a real gap in the marketplace about 7 years ago. We noticed with kid sticks, they were way too big, way too stiff in comparison. So what I did was I hired an engineer to look into China. You have to make sticks in China. for the cost. There's just no other way around it. So we looked at, we hired an engineer to go there to the factories and try and make us something that was like a 25 flex, a 35 flex, and a 45 flex, but it was true one piece. I said, like, I want like the quality of like a pro stock stick, with the ability for it to be a low flex. So we created our own brand called the Pro Flex stick, and we sold it to kids, and all based on learning the dynamics of a shot with being able to load it at first. So essentially, for me, for my generation, we all learned how to shoot with the old drag and release method. For youngsters nowadays, I still think that there's part of that, but I definitely think that you can see that the whip, putting the weight on your lower hand and letting the stick do the work, is definitely going to be an important to get the quick release, to beat the goalie is really excellent. So for them to learn that at an early age would definitely give them the ability to do so. And you've seen now since then, obviously. Every brand is now doing these 25, 35 flex sticks. So we saw the opportunity in the marketplace, realized there was probably a couple year gap before everybody would probably start doing it, created the sticks, brought over some. We were so busy with pro stock, so busy with refurbs. There wasn't any time or effort to really try and start a brand or a whole lot of desire to on my side of things. So that was our play to try and help the kids out, and all the people that came in, we would show it to them and stuff. But what happened was it started up a relationship with an unbelievable hockey factory. And I always told them, I said, if I would be able to just get $100 stick, a good quality $100 stick, what would it take? And it was 5 years later that we hit that, because they had some extra sticks. So they shipped them to me and they said, hey, we have these sticks. Do you want them? We can do it at a price where I can sell them for $100. Certainly. So I'd send them to me. Okay, great. At the same time, I'd actually bought out all of the remaining sticks from a factory in Sherbrooke, Quebec, which was the last remaining composite manufacturer in Canada. I bought out a lot of their sticks, and I had a couple thousand of these black sticks that didn't have any graphics on them or anything. And we were selling them 2-3 at a time at $60 a piece. And everybody was happy with them. So we knew that there was a great market for just a plain black stick. What happened was when they showed up, they were these beautiful 18K carbon sticks that, I looked at them and I said, wow, the balance is incredible. True one piece. Like, these are elite sticks. And there was no writing on them. They just sent them to me as is. They applied the grip and away they went. But they look just like what you see on all the top end sticks. Now that 18K carbon is that checkered look that you see on some of the more noticeable brands. So I said, as long as these things are durable, then we have a winner here. These are great. And then I went back to the factory and I said, can you keep producing them for me at that cost? And they said, absolutely not. But we can continue to send them to you if we have more extra runoffs, or if our factory is slow and we just need to pay our people, then it makes sense. So that was a couple of years ago. And since then we've sold thousands and thousands of these sticks that are essentially what we call pro blackout. Obviously a pro blackout stick is not all made the same. The ones that we have in this particular factory, we know is good. We see that the durability of this stick is a high-end stick, so it will break the same as any other high-end stick will. But it's built for performance, and no more, no less than anything else we found on the whole.
So we got into the more niche section, the more niche part of the pro stock stick business. But one thing we haven't discussed is just the pure difference between that of a retail stick and that of a pro stock stick. Because I know, when I was younger, I would go to a store and I would see a P88 Patrick Kane curve, Patrick Kane pattern on a Bauer stick, and I would think to myself, oh, like this is the same stick, the same curve that Patrick Kane would use, or like whatever name was on the stick I used to think have to be the same style that the NHL player would use. That is obviously different, but can you take us through like what's exact differences between a pro stock and a regular stick?
Certainly, and there are some differences, very subtle differences. The very first thing is that the pro stock stick is made a lot of time in a different factory, but by a little bit different process. So you can imagine if they're making sticks for Alexander Ovechkin, that the quality care is just a little bit different. So the largest thing is that section, that handmade section, to say like this stick doesn't have defects, you know what I mean? Because we can't be sending sticks with defects with pro stocks. So the quality control is probably slightly a little bit better. Then in some cases they'll thicken up the walls a little bit of the pro stock stick so that it has a little bit more durability for the 220-pound NHL man who can shoot the puck like crazy. It needs to be a little bit more beefed up, which also gives us a little bit more durability for the most point. And then the big difference other than that is that you can customize it. So it can be completely customized to whatever you want. I know, for instance, some of the older players want a heavier stick. A lot of the older players want a heavier stick. So sometimes there's extra weight to a certain model because they like it heavier. Brad Boyes, who's my age, used to like a bottom heavy stick, sort of more like what you would have used growing up with the wooden sticks. So you could customize it however you want it. Finish is another one. Some guys have like a bubbly finish for a little bit of grip. Some guys don't like grip at all, but they like a little bit of ridges in there for holding on to it. Phil Kessel's sticks actually mimics that tape around it. So it's like you taping it, but it's built into the grip. So there's all these different customization features. The thickness of the blade is another one. A lot of players will go with a max blade, which is just finding its way to the retail market now. You can have the finish of the blade be slightly different. All of these things are cool features. They're neat, but it's at the end of the day, we don't harp at them too much. The main thing for us is that there's not massive differences. A high-end stick is a high-end stick, and none of these things are that important to the everyday user. The big thing that's important to them is that it's $150, it's $200, as opposed to the big price. And that's what we really focused on for our website. The retail, the big difference on the big advantage is that when you buy retail, it comes with the manufacturer's 30-day warranty, whereas the pro stock stick does not come with a manufacturer's warranty. So it falls back on the retailer that you bought it from. And for us, we obviously try and help everybody out, but it's not the same. We're not the manufacturer that's warranting the product. So that's part of the risk. You're saving money, but you're not necessarily getting your 30-day warranty all the time.
In your opinion, what would you say would be the most popular curve or pattern amongst all players you see? You've been around sticks for a while. What do you think is the most popular?
I remember picking up a stick when I was back in university, and it was called the Sakic pattern. And me being the hockey stick man, of course, I would have the best pattern, right? So the Sakic pattern was this big hook, and a lot of people I remember making comments about how big the curve was, and I loved it because you can just fire the puck with it. And today, that pattern has absolutely dominated the marketplace. That pattern as the P92 for many brands. It as the Crosby, the P29, and Matthews, I believe, is now one of the poster childs for those curves. So it's number one by far. And what happened was you had people that as the game evolved and changed, you needed to be able to shoot faster. You need to be able to get the shot off faster. Utilizing the technology, you were able to shoot off different portions of your blade. So what the Sakic pattern actually allows you to do is it actually allows you to shoot from the heel, the mid, or the toe. And it's very difficult for a goalie to pick up which one or where it's going to go off of that stick. So there's an inherent benefit right off the bat from using that pattern. And that's why you'll see players like Austin Matthews, Tyler Sagan, and on and on and on down the list. It got to the point where I would say maybe 60% of today's players use that pattern, that same pattern. It may have the max blade. It may have a slight variation, but essentially it's that exact pattern. So that dominates. And then also now it's also translated to retail. It's also the number one pattern for retail. The other thing that happened was a lot of guys like it just a little bit more on the toe. So what they would do is it just goes up a little bit. It gets flatter through the mid and it curves the toe more and opens up. And that's what you know is the P28. And of course that was brought in initially from the pro stock guys, and it's very prevalent in retail now. When I first started in the business, we didn't see any of it. It was called the Creps in Easton, but we didn't see much of any of it. Now I would say at least 15 to 20% of every stick is now that P28 pattern. It's designed and excellent for pin shooting right off that toe, getting it up fast. And a lot of people like that. So a lot of people will switch back and forth between those two patterns. And then there's Jamie Benn, who always used the Sakic as well. And he just thought, I don't want quite the toe. I just like a little kink at the toe. And I believe it was CCM called that the P90T. And that's P90 twist. So a twist of the toe. And that's actually now, that was got very, very popular amongst pro stick players for the last 5 years. A lot of players, in particular on the junior OHL, were using the P90T. And that actually just hit retail. I believe it was in 2020. They brought that out as a retail pattern, the P90TM. And that's twist with a max blade on that Sakic curve. So it's this curves that, as you can see, the curves nowadays are either Sakic or essentially based off of the old Sakic curve. Gone are the days of the Lidstrom and the Drury heel patterns, your Zetterberger, Medano, flat, low patterns, those types of things, certainly at the retail market. But then again, that's not realistic. There's still a lot of pro players that will use all different kinds of things.
Yes, and you mentioned that all players, like different players, use different things, different curves. It's all personal preference. So I want to get into the more like the lesser popular curves. Like I know, like some of the well-known ones, like the Ryan O'Reilly, like that toe hook that looks like a pickaxe on the toe, and then you got Crosby with his basically flat blade. I'm curious, what's the craziest stick pattern you've ever seen? Something like, regardless of curve, like maybe like a thickness or what have you.
Yeah, certainly. There's been a lot. One of the ones, the Ryan O'Reilly sticks out, and it's pretty odd. But there's a lot of guys that will use a certain stick that looks a little bit weird, has this kink in the toe, and I would often say, like, what's the idea behind this? And equipment managers would tell me that Ryan O'Reilly, NHL guys, they can shoot with anything, but what they really want to do is they want to go up high and close. So JVR, players like that, guys that are close to the net, when they get in close to the net, they want to have a little zip on their toe to just flip it up over the goalie. And you see that on some sticks that guys are using. In terms of the oddest, the biggest oddity in my mind always goes back to the Crosby versus Ovechkin, two best players in the game for the last 15 years. One uses like a lie 4 very almost a straight stick in Crosby, and then Ovechkin has the biggest curve in the league. So it just goes to show you, like I always like to use that as a contrast. Like there is no right or wrong. Best two players in the world. You can't deny anything that either of those guys decide to use, but it really is personal preference. So I believe that when you ask about what's the right curve to use, it's between Crosby or Ovechkin and everything in between, depending on who you are.
Actually, now you mentioned Ovechkin, was one thing I want to get into, because I remember watching the old 24/7 documentary from when it was, I think it was it Washington, Pittsburgh, in the Winter Classic, going back a few years. When they were like, they had a little segment on Ovechkin with his sticks. And he was talking about how he has one set for practice, one set for games, with the practice set being an illegal curve. What classifies an illegal curve in NHL standards? Like what would justify a stick measurement? Or
well, one thing is the height. There's a maximum height restriction. There used to be an actual amount that your curve could actually be, and you used to have to be able to fit like a dime underneath of it when setting it down. So if you set the curve down and you could fit a dime underneath of it, that was considered an illegal curve. They busted that out against Marty McSorley in the finals and got him an unsportsmanlike contact penalty, and that was sort of made famous that way. It was always sort of something that wasn't really that important, and I believe the NHL has kind of done away with that. The concept of the max blade, however, does enable you to have a max height on your paddle. So that would be an illegal stick if it was beyond the max blade as well. So there's a few different guidelines in terms of that, but how much curve you can have on your stick doesn't appear to be a big deal that anybody cares about it anymore.
All right. We're not going to keep you that much longer because we know you're a very busy man. We'd like to thank you so much for coming on the show. It was a pleasure talking to you today.
Thank you guys, and good luck with the podcast. I know you're just getting it going. So I hope all the best, and everybody enjoyed at least what I had to say. And I'm sure you'll have some amazing guests in the future.
Thank you so much. It was a pleasure.
Take it easy, guys.
All right. Take it easy.